And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest episode of the Sling'N podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Kent.
And tonight, for episode 25, we thought we would do an after-action review or report on the Modern Samurai project. Kent and I had the privilege of getting to train with Scott Jedlinski here at the Royal Range here in Nashville, Tennessee. And you know what? It was a great time. So no special guests tonight other than just the two of us. We're going to go over it. So Kent has hosted Jedi a couple of times, at least once now. Going to be hosting him again here soon up there in Pennsylvania. So he's been through this class a couple times now. He was nice enough to drive all the way down here and participate in the class with me, more as a student as opposed to an assistant instructor type host role. And you know what, buddy? It was a great time. So before we get into the meat and potatoes, why don't you tell the folks what's new with you?
Well. Let's see. Classes, we've got Pine Grove. There's still 3 slots left for Pine Grove this weekend. If anybody wants to come out, March the 7th and the 8th, CCW Essentials. It's my take on what you as a concealed carrier should have in your skill set. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then got at least one class every month scheduled for open enrollment from now until November. GreenMountainDefense.com/training for those. Competition seasons firing back up. And doing privates. And I'm trying to not suck myself at shooting.
Yeah, it's phrasing.
Boom. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, just doing the new dad thing. Enjoying little James and mom time and all that. But life is generally good, man. Really enjoying it. And I really enjoyed the southern hospitality from you and your folks down there. I got to meet y'all don't know, but I got to like hang out with TJ's family and talk to his mama about his, diaper rash when he was a baby and stuff. It was just amazing.
I'm just glad we left before she brought out the pictures.
No, it was really cool to get to see like the other side of your life and get to really know your wife and your kids and your family and all that. And also, thanks Tennessee for the southern hospitality. I have no idea what the hell 2/3 of y'all were saying, but you seem really nice. So
it's a dialect thing. It's a dialect.
No, it's for sure a dialect thing. But Royal Range was a great host. I've played the host role myself before. Those guys know what the hell they're doing. What a great facility that is. So kudos to them. It's nice not to want for anything. And we had an awesome weekend. So what about you, man? What's new in your world?
Continuing, honestly, and not to jump too far into it, but continuing to train and dry fire and work on some of the techniques that we picked up while we were in that class. It certainly gave me a lot to think about and a lot of points to evaluate about where I'm at in my shooting game and my skill set. And I've been working on that ever since. Other than that, waiting to get back out to the range here in the near future. Still trying to reach out to that 1,000-yard target and ring some steel. So that isn't probably going to be a never-ending challenge. But you got to push your limits, right? So continuing to spend some time behind the Head Down Firearms Craftsman Series rifle. Really enjoying that. And yeah, man, just keeping it simple. Work's been picking up. We're coming into the warmer months. And as it may surprise some of you, those that know that I work in the IT industry, we actually do have kind of a busy peak season, and early spring and into early summer, pretty much through the spring and into early summer, our business really, really picks up. So just kind of getting prepared for that, man. Other than that, trying to stay frosty.
So hackers come out in the sunshine?
A lot of people want those types of projects done, yes. Yeah, something to do with, fiscal year, people get all that stuff. Yep.
Yeah, now that makes sense.
Yep.
I was just picturing like a bunch of y'all with like hotspots and laptops in a park on a checkered blanket with like a basket of chicken and some fucking Milo's sweet tea.
Of course, nothing but the best. I will say that that's not beyond the realm of the possibility. I will neither confirm nor deny that I have and sometimes do get to work in my underwear with a cold beer on my desk.
It's a really hard life. So, guys, what we're gonna do tonight is I'm gonna play the role of host, and I'm going to debrief TJ on his experience with MSP. Y'all have heard me do this before on my own channel, as well as on our joint channel when we actually interviewed Jedi. So you've heard my opinion. So just to set the stage, TJ is a considerably better shooter with a pistol than he gives himself credit for. That should be noted early on. He didn't come into this needing a ton of help, right? He came into it needing some refinement. So that's a big declaration to make as opposed to what some might think. So my man can run his gun, and he did quite well in the class. But that being said, TJ, this is your first experience in how long with civilian sector firearms training?
It's been about 7 years now. Yeah. So just a little bit of background on it, just to add some context to that. So obviously we've got military training. We've had, Cam on, as well as many other hosts who have all echoed the same thing. Military training and the training you get with a sidearm in the military is absolute garbage, right? It's just that simple. It needs a lot of work. Now, with that being said, when I shifted gears and became a defense contractor, we were an armed contractor. We had to certify. Now, we were lucky enough while we were stateside for the company that I worked for at the time to have a third-party firearms training company provide that certification range for us. They also oversaw the qualification and made sure that all of our scores and reports and whatnot were turned into the Department of Defense so that we could validate being an armed contractor. Now, with that being said, part of the deal was, look, we'll do the certification for you guys, but we're going to put your folks through some of our handgun training. And that was a little bit more high speed. I had already been competing at that point, just to be clear, but they took us through a very, very good class. Certainly more fundamental, I would say, but they certainly went from 5 miles an hour up to 75 miles an hour within that 2-day period. So I'd say it was good for all walks of life. Probably not good for somebody who's never picked up a gun before. But yeah, so that was my last training before attending the MSP.
Just a quick side note. I can't believe I've never asked you this question, but what were you guys carrying when you worked for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Marvel or whoever the hell you worked for? Was it like laser beam blasters or M9s or?
Yeah, we can't talk about it. It was a Beretta M9 standard military issue. So when you're over there, and it depends on the contract. So just some food for thought for everybody. If you are looking at becoming a defense contractor, these are some questions that you might want to ask if you're becoming an armed contractor. In some instances, and I would even say in a majority of those instances, you are restricted to carrying whatever the U.S. military is carrying at that time. However, there are some, albeit very few, but there are some that are kind of allowed to run what they want as long as it's in a standard NATO caliber. So 9x19, 5.56 by 40, you know what I'm talking about. 5.56 rifles, 9mm. As long as it's chambered in that, you are lucky enough to carry whatever you want. But no, we had standard issue Beretta M9s.
Interesting.
And that's actually what we took that class with. That class was with the Beretta M9.
Gotcha. So prior to MSP, you first got on the dot with a SIG
Romeo.
Romeo, the 320 RX and a Romeo.
Mm-hmm.
Then I sent you down the red dot slide. What, like a year and a half ago?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
So you've been messing around with a G19 with a dot on it for a year and a half ish.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's correct.
So you've been dry firing that. You've been shooting that. You've competed with it. Unlike some of us, like dude's been working with the same gun the whole time. Basically, he does not have a stable of 29 different 9mm Glocks with different dots on them and stuff, which probably helps with his consistency, to be candid. But you had not had any at all formal training on a red dot gun, so this to you was your first, not only your first civilian class of any type for a long time, but it was a specific subject matter class. This is not a Joe Blow handgun 102 class. This is a very particular specific subject matter. So why don't you give me just a general idea of what, when you came into class, what were your expectations? What were you? I know where you got your expectations from, right? Most of it was from talking to me and looking on the internet and whatever. But what were some of the things that you were expecting to see when you showed up?
So, and you're 100% right. I did have a lot of expectations that were kind of, we'll say that the skids were well greased by you, right? To kind of, you don't want to set your buddy up for failure, right? So you also don't want me making you look like an asshole. But with that being said, I have always prided myself, and I do this with any class I go into, be it firearms, medical, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, whatever the case might be. I like to walk into the class pretending I know nothing, right? Because what I don't want to have happen is have any preconceived I don't want expectations to turn into preconceived notions. And I want to allow the instructor the opportunity to fill the otherwise empty cup, right? I don't want him to try to have to make room in that cup.
Oh, he filled your cup.
Yeah, he sure shit did. But with that being said, my expectations were actually pretty simple. I expected to just get better at shooting a red dot. I know that sounds kind of cheesy and cliche. I mean, after all, that is one of his taglines, get better. But that's what I was expecting. I was expecting to get better in whatever that might have manifested itself into. I was open to accepting and receiving that knowledge transfer. So I kind of kept it as empty-headed as I possibly could.
Yeah, you certainly approached it with a good student mindset. If in case folks don't realize this by now, man, we take this shit awful serious, right? Like this is not a weekend getaway fantasy fun camp. This is very serious work to us. And one of the things I was pleased by, this is TJ and I's first class together as a pair of students, right? And my man's all business. He was 100%. Like, I got to his house Friday night. He's like, dude, let's jam mags. Let's do a gear check. Let's go over. Let's make sure we have everything. Let's check for ammo. Let's check for this. Let's check for that. He took it the same way I take it. This was work to TJ.
Yeah.
This is not like we did some filming or whatever for the grams and took some pictures or whatever, but he didn't roll into this like he was going to an amusement park. We had a very serious drive to class the first morning. I mean, we joke around and shit. We're buddies. We were having fun, but both of us had a level of like, all right, this is the real thing. We're really going to learn something. And you could see it in his demeanor and the way he approached this, that he was taking it as seriously as I would have hoped and as I do, which is not always the case with everybody, FYI. And if you're for some reason hearing us talk about this and you're thinking to yourself like, dude, all I want to do is go have fun with a gun, man, rock on. Like that's fine. That's totally okay, but call it like it is. And I've always kind of, as I've exposed others to training, I've always kind of been a little bit sometimes hesitant to do it with other people because not many people look at it the way I do. And, it's obviously that's why he and I are friends. That's why he and I started a podcast together, blah, 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 blah. But, it was nice to see him put into practice what we've both talked about so much. He was a serious student. He was ready to rock and roll. We didn't pound the bars down closed in Nashville until 2 a.m. and then stumble into class sideways Saturday morning. We really took this quite seriously. So what we're not going to do is we're not going to give away a pile of Scott's trade secrets or POI or whatever here. But what was the one thing that you saw over the course of 16 hours that you were just like, wow, I didn't expect that?
So everything that he had to show and refine with my grip. And that sounds really lame, right? You're like, oh, wow, I paid all the, for the folks at home, I'm going to pay all this money for this class. And, I'm going to expect more than fixing my grip, right? Now, let me explain this to you. I've been shooting for a long time. I've even told Kent, and I've even said this to Kent in private conversations. One of the things that I was resistant to about training, and this is going to sound really arrogant and arguably naive of me, but I even told him, I said, buddy, I've got a real hard time coughing up that much money for somebody to teach me something I don't already know. And the reason I talk about his block of instruction on the grip, because it wasn't just, okay, this is how the grip should look. He had us shoot, then fixed our grip, then had us reshoot and actually observe the difference. No targets involved, just shooting to observe and pay attention to the way that the gun was changing, the way that we were able to change how the gun reacted throughout the firing sequence. And during that point, that was the one staple in that class that made me go, whoa, holy shit.
Yep.
There's something to, and it was so simple.
Yeah.
But it made all the difference in the world. And right then and there, I can say that I would probably not have performed nearly as well in that class with respect to the accuracy and the consistency that I did without having absorbed that bit of information and really given it a fair shot. I mean, hell, I normally don't get slide bite, right? Yep. This thing dug a trench into my hand because I was actually gripping it the way that I should have been. Now, that's mostly because I've got fat, meaty, catcher's mitt hands, but that's besides the point.
You know what's great about that particular block of instruction is that you got that for the first time. I got an updated version of it that I had seen a year ago. And this is something that, if you're keeping score, if your instructor's teaching the same blocks of stuff that they've been teaching for the last 10, 15 years and they haven't made any adjustments whatsoever, that's kind of called a clue, right? So Scott had a piece of a demo in this grip thing that I had not seen before that, number one, helped me anchor the technique better, but number two, gave me a live, real demonstration that can be used on any student that has helped me as a teacher. Instantaneously. So here's TJ, who hasn't had a professional training class in half a decade or better. And here's Kent, who's taught professional training classes and taken a binder full of them in the last 5 years to 7 years. And we both took away a different nugget from the same block of instruction from the same guy within the same time constraint. That is the difference between a predetermined cookie cutter class coursework and a Socratic method where the students all get together and workshop it with the instructor. And as he's explaining it to you, he's like, I'm not seeing a light bulb. Let me adjust how I approach this and give you another analogy. And then all of a sudden you're like, Jesus Christ, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's neat.
Let me summarize it this way. What he showed us with overall presentation and the construction of the grip, right? It's not just put hand here, grip. He taught us how to construct and put this grip together every single time consistently. It worked so well, I have removed the compensators from my pistols.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that simple. The Ginger Special is now the Ginger Threaded Barrel Glock 19 amalgamation, right? Because it no longer has the compensator on it. I'm that confident in what he taught us. So, and I mean, if I might say so myself here, that the fact that you saw that a different way and you took the class not even a year ago,
Yeah.
that he changed it and you were able to submit that is a testament to Scott as an instructor and a teacher, because he is constantly refining and revisiting the methods and techniques that he is teaching.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things where if it's done correctly, a whole group of people can hear the same lesson and take different things away from it, and everybody still values and still benefits. That's always nice. Just so we're entirely clear, like this was a red dot class, right? But what percentage of the stuff that you were shown would you say translates to every handgun you shoot?
All of it.
Right, like 100.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe 95 because the dot tracking stuff isn't present without a dot.
Like, I mean, that's obvious. I mean, you take that piece of equipment away, then
right.
that's not there for you to track. But if I replace dot, like electrical optic red dot, to a fiber optic red front sight post, yeah, the experience will be very similar, right? If there is a difference, at least if there is we'll just go ahead and say it. If there is a difference between what he taught as it applies to an iron-sighted gun, it's minimal. And for the points where it is different, the learning curve is more of a speed bump rather than an uphill battle.
Sure. So none of the stuff that you anchored or cemented or learned to practice and learned to put into your dry fire has had any detriment to your iron sight shooting.
No.
This isn't. I guess what I'm trying to say is, some people have asked me about the class that I'm the class I hosted last time, and a couple people at my range and stuff. They're like, look, I don't shoot a dot all the time, although I do have one. Would this class benefit me? And to me, the answer is yeah, man, because it's only going to make you a better iron sight shooter.
Yep.
Number one. And number two, nothing that you're going to be given is going to detract from your iron sight gun.
Correct.
I did some of the drills and some of the like the compressed ready grip acquisition in dry fire tonight on my GP 100. And you know what? It worked. Right? Like I brought out a freaking 60-year-old gun. I mean, the index point's a little bit different, and I don't have the undercut and the big, I can't get up as high on the frame on that gun, but it still works. So,
yeah, I mean, the concepts are there. I mean, you can't, and this goes back a little bit to what we were talking about. That's being a good student, right?
Yep.
You have to manage your expectations in your frame of reference. If you go into this class, or any class for that matter, and you're like, oh, well, I don't have a dot on this gun, this is useless to me. Well, have you actually stopped and thought about what all he taught you, or what all you learned in that block of instruction? Let's start from square one and work backwards, and let's say, okay, wait a second. Let's stop. Let's dump out all this garbage that I know about shooting a Ruger GP 100, right? And let's build the blocks back up. He gives you what you need to be successful moving forward. It's on you to apply it. So I also do want to throw out one thing here real quick, because this may come up, may not. I don't know. Kent and I both paid full price for this class.
You paid full price. I paid the student.
So let us further clarify. Kent being an alumni, and if you go to any one of Scott's classes, he does afford previous students an alumni discount to come back, which is not uncommon with firearms instructors. But with that being said, this was not given to us. Those of you that have watched the podcast know that Scott has been on the podcast before. Actually, I just uploaded that same interview on this channel and uploaded it to our podcast streamer, so you can get it on Apple iTunes and all that other good stuff. So you guys could have heard it before we took the class. But we owe Scott nothing for taking this class other than our gratitude, right?
Yeah.
So
No, there's no.
We weren't given a spot. It was paid for.
Nor do I in any way financially benefit as a class host.
Correct.
Other than getting to take a class for free. So this isn't actually. Let's be even clear. Jedi don't need me to pimp his fucking classes. He's gonna fill them either way, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Like it's just kind of one of those things. Just so in 100% transparency, the podcast, nor my LLC, nor either of us as a person benefit financially from doing these kinds of things. And Jedi's not the only person we or I have done them for. I've done this with other classes I've been to in the past. Hell, I did one for the SIG Academy a couple of years ago. I promise you that Phil Strader at SIG Academy did not send me a cookie basket full of goodies for saying that his class was good, right?
Yep.
I've done it for Phil. I've done it for Dave. There have been more than one person that I've pimped their training product because I think it's worthwhile training, not because I'm taking some backdoor money. So yeah, that's totally fair. But what did you think about the level of student that you saw at Jedi's class? Now this I'm leading somewhere specific, right?
Okay, sure. So I would say, just from my observation and not having gotten a chance to talk to everybody, right? You and I think, did a pretty good job talking to the pair that was next to us, to our immediate right. Awesome guys, really cool, laid back. Kent and I are very friendly and approachable individuals, but we're not going to go force our way to talk to you. So if you're now, Kent may be a little bit more up to that because of his day job. He's a slimy sales guy, but we're not going to force our way into your hearts and minds to get you to like us and talk to us. So just because you were next to us, we didn't talk to you. It wasn't because we didn't want to. It's just because, you were doing your thing. We didn't want to disturb your learning experience. But with that being said, the guys to our immediate right were very amicable, very open to communicating about what they were learning, what they liked, asking us questions. We asked them questions, and really kind of bonding and learning together. So our group kind of doubled in size that day. But with that being said, there were, I would say, some pretty, I hate to use the term seasoned because that makes it sound like, Todd Jarrett showed up, right? But no, there were some experienced guys, both from law enforcement, civilian, armed security guys that were, trying to get better. There were a couple of people that clearly did not have a whole lot of trigger time, right? They understood. We'll say they at least appeared to fit a certain stereotype of the older crowd, right, in the shooting community. I don't want to say FUD. That wasn't the case. But if I told you to picture one, many of you listening to this podcast would know what that looks like.
You know what? I'm gonna stop you right there, because two of those boys were a little towards that persuasion. But goddamn, didn't they burn it down by the end of 2 days, right?
Oh no, they absolutely did. I'm just trying
to see.
I'm trying the best way to frame it because they're not professional shooters. They're they very much had a hobbyist approach to them. I could look at these guys and say they do not carry every day.
Well, the one did.
One did. One.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's what I always find interesting about training. This is kind of where I was going. In a Jedi class, in a armed vehicle defense class, in a higher, some of these, as you get past the 101, 102, 103 typical schoolhouse curriculum kind of courses, and you delve out into these narrow topics, out of 15 of us, I would say, well, first of all, everybody was safe. Yes. Everybody was squared away.
Yep.
There was nobody on the line who I was like, oh, fuck that guy. Here it comes, right?
And nobody had an ego either.
No, absolutely not.
Everybody was super chill. You didn't have that one guy that was argumentative, thought he knew better than Scott.
Yep.
I will say this. I want to tell you about the one guy, since we're talking about the walks of life, or at least the perceived skill and experience of each person that was in that class. Everybody clearly had experience behind a gun. What impressed me the most was the guy, and I want to say he was younger than us, looked to be in about his mid to late 20s. This was his first time shooting a gun with a red dot.
Yeah.
Emphasis on with a red dot, right?
Yeah.
So and he wasn't a competitor either. He never shot USPSA or 3-gun or any of that crap. Just, again, hobbyist shooter, younger dude, wanting to get into the game, never shot a red dot before until that class. And, dude, he burned it the hell down. He did fantastic.
Yeah. I think my favorite part of this kind of event is when the instructor approaches things the way Scott does, when the class gels the way that does. There was so many of the things that we take for granted because we are who we are as shooters. Not everybody in the shooting community does. Not once did he have to say, hey, guys, pick up brass and swap targets, or hey, guys, we need to do this, or hey, like we were fighting over the brooms to sweep up brass, and everybody was trying to help everybody. Yep, everybody was
hanging targets.
Yeah,
repairing, the backer boards or whatever, or hanging up new cardboard. Like, yeah, man, it was. Yeah, I'll tell you what. If you were to have that same crew as a squad at a USPSA or a 3-gun match, that'd be one of those days where you just didn't have anything to bitch about other than your mediocre performance, as is often the case with me.
Absolutely.
So. But yeah, you're not looking back at that one guy that's sitting there, hasn't pasted a single target the entire match. And you're like, this son of a bitch, like, hey, let's all paste, right? You don't have to make that passive aggressive statement loud enough right next to him so he will hear it and actually get off his ass. But no, everybody was super cool. Appearances aside, everybody was fantastic. Really enjoyed the student population of the group.
The other thing that I really appreciate about classes like this is, again, when I mention, so I keep saying Socratic method, and I draw a big delineation between classes where there's a lecture break and a water break, and then a built-in 40-minute block, and then a water break, and then an hour block, and then a water break, and then an hour block. And there's no, and many of the schools do this. They've got their time management so allocated to the nth degree that there's literally no time in the POI for the dudes to stand around and shoot the shit and go, wait, hold up, show me that again. Like, that's all you need to do sometimes is make eye contact with the instructor and say, hey, Scott, can you come back over here and, give me that Mr. Miyagi shit one more time, because clearly I fucking missed it, right? Like, my head was in outer space somewhere. Clearly, I didn't get what you just said. And then without Scott even opening his mouth, the dude next to me goes, well, it's kind of like this. And I look at him and I go, well, fuck, why didn't somebody else just say that? There's that group of dudes that's just, it's like King of the Hill, where we're all standing around the couch drinking a beer, just cocking occasionally. It breeds the example to where if one guy in the class has a question about this and is willing to verbalize it for the group, chances are 2 or 3 or 5 other people were thinking the same thing, but just didn't bring themselves to verbalize in that moment. And in so many other classes, those kind of moments just get bulldozed right by. Mm-hmm. And then the instructor stands up at the end of the half-day block and goes, so anybody have any questions about what we did this morning? And everybody's like, shit, man, I don't remember what you said 10 minutes ago. Now you want me to remember back to a question I had at 10:15? Right. And it's noon 30 and all I'm thinking about is Subway. So, it's kind of nice and refreshing to have those kind of moments. Let's see. So talk to me a little bit about the gear you brought with you, and if anything, did you have any, I know you didn't have any like obvious failures, but was there anything about your setup or about your equipment that I wish I changed this or wish I do that differently? Stuff like that.
So all told, I had one issue with equipment. So for those that don't know, I have recently streamlined my firearms collection, at least my handgun collection, to primarily Glock firearms. Okay. So I took this brand new Gen 5 Glock 34 9mm RMR Type 2 and my trusty Surefire X300. And I ran it with this brand new. I put 10 rounds through it to confirm my rough zero before I went to the class.
Rough.
And yeah, rough zero.
Rough.
Right. So see, he's mocking my corgi that will just literally sit in your lap and bark at your face, which he got to experience. But I did swap out the extended slide lock that comes on the competition grade Glock firearms. And that was because, again, going back to the grip, now that my grip was much higher and was applying pressure in the correct places, or we'll say the more efficient places on the firearm, I actually had a problem where I was inducing malfunctions because the meaty part of my hand was activating the slide lock, and it was because it was slightly extended. Now, hats off to Royal Range. They have quite an impressive selection of aftermarket parts and components. So I went out to their rack, talked to their gunsmith, said, hey, man, this is what I'm looking for. I need to get rid of this for something a little bit more OEM style Glock slide lock. And we threw a Vickers on there, and that made all the difference in the world. For holster, and as you saw that gun, light, RMR, stock magazines, no other modifications to it whatsoever. That's what I ran for a firearm.
Can you hold that back up real quick?
Sure.
I just want to point something out for the folks playing the home game. You know TJ is an OG because he has Abraham Lincoln's X300.
Yes. I have had this weapon light for about a better part of a decade. If not longer. Actually, no, I purchased it in 2009.
He pulled that bitch out of the Potomac after somebody capsized their canoe. That thing has been around a while.
Hey, it still works, right? But yeah, it works great, and I've put it on every carry gun I've had. So, as far as holsters, so I have a floodlight. I chose to run my Tier 1 concealed Axis Slim as a holster for this class. One of the primary reasons I did that was because I wanted to carry as many magazines as possible. Now, tactical reloads were not covered in this class. This is not a class about reloading, right? However, I wanted to get some more time with my Tier 1 concealed, and I wanted that extra magazine on board so that I could kind of work it whenever the opportunity arose. I could work my mag changes in. And more importantly, work my mag changes in and see if I could reconstruct the grip that he was explaining to us and had taught us earlier that day. So that's why I ran that. So, but yeah, it was that simple. I did take a drop pouch or a dump pouch that I was kind of attached to my belt, and I literally just stuffed, half a dozen magazines back there, so I wasn't constantly running back and forth stuffing mags. I had pretty much everything I would need for a majority of that block of instruction and a damn near up to lunchtime.
Yeah, dude. Pro tip. Load all the magazines.
Yes.
Watching TJ's face as I was opening containers full of magazines, and he was like, "Oh, this is heaven."
Yeah, you got to bump those numbers up, man. Those are rookie numbers. You got.
He's like, how many magazines are we taking? And I'm like bringing in ammo can cases of magazines. He's like, oh, all the magazines. Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
so
how many times did we get to stand around and hydrate or bullshit while those other dudes were stuffing mags?
Oh, damn near the entire time.
Right.
I don't think we went completely dry. I think we only had to stuff magazines on the first day. I want to say maybe twice, and that was only like one or two magazines just so we could be safe. We came home that night with damn near plenty of magazines to run almost the entire next day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that. So I think in total, between the two of us, we had 30 magazines? That was about the final count. Yeah, 30, 32, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can never have enough. So, and I know we've talked about this before in other episodes, but guys, magazines are meant to be disposable. Those are the one part of the gun, of any gun, that is meant to be disposable. That's why they only cost, 30, 40, $50 as opposed to another $500. So stock up on magazines. You're going to wear them out. If you're not wearing them out, you need to train more.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like, just the simple little things. Get a little paint pen and mark your shit.
Yep.
Because you and 20 other dudes are throwing a litany of magazines on the ground, right? Yeah. There you go. Just like that. Fun
fact, we were not the only ones with Glocks there.
Right. Surprise for us.
Nor Glocks that took 17 round magazines.
Right.
So yeah, it's real easy to, you dump those things on the ground, they get kicked across the floor. You go to pick them up, you grab 2 or 3 other magazines that don't belong to you.
Yeah.
In that same corner of the room. So yeah, pro tip. Extra mags always helps, and a paint pen.
So one of the things that's often brought up in the dark corners of the interwebs when talking about these classes is that Jedi's classes are all about speed. True or false?
False.
Right.
Absolutely false. There is actually, and I'll bring this up because he brought up a point where he was running one of the students through a particular drill, and he shot, I can't remember specifically what the times are, so I'll make them up arbitrarily, but he ran one in the first volley. It was, so the drill was, it was 3 to the chest, 2 to the head, or 2 to the 3x5 card. It's part of his black belt standards. And the guy did it the first time in like 260 something, right? He did it the second time in almost 2 flat, or it was like 210 or something, 220, something substantially faster. But the way the impacts were tracking, it was going out of the head box entirely, right? Scott even made a point. He goes, listen, in the concept of reality, if we're talking about precise and well-placed shots, if we're talking about the difference of 0.2 of a second when you've already got shots on target, and I'm paraphrasing here, of course, what would you rather have? The 260 whatever that's perfectly aimed, or the 240 or 230 where it's potentially going off into the ether and off your target completely? And and surprisingly, because I thought he's surely going to say the faster one, because the guy was still on target, right?
Yeah.
He threw a curveball, and he was like, no, in this case, I would recommend the slightly slower time because of the way these rounds were impacting, because they were eventually going to go off completely from the target. So you have to maintain, and I know I'm going to butcher this, so Scott, I apologize, but you have to maintain you have to maintain within the acceptable standards of accuracy for that given target in that scenario.
Yeah.
Right. That might be a 1-inch circle at 10 yards. That might be an A zone, right? You have to understand what your acceptable levels of accuracy are for that given situation.
No, for sure. But I mean, we shot groups for accuracy at 15. We had 18 yards. We were at an indoor range, so we had like 18 yards max.
Well, we eventually pushed it out to the 25, but yeah, for the entire line to be shooting, we had to stay at 18.
Right. So I mean, we shot little 1-inch squares at 10 yards. We shot zeroing targets at 10 yards. We shot 4 groups at the MSP logo, which is a 3-inch group or whatever, at 15 or 17 yards, and did a lot of them. And Scott demoed in accuracy mode quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like he showed us what he expected for an acceptable zero at distance. So, it's not all just 3 and 5 yard line burning it down at all. The other thing is, the 25, the standard, the black belt standard, when you get at the 25-yard line, and by the way, TJ and I both made the accuracy at the 25-yard line, but didn't make the time quite. We got kind of close, within 3 or 4 tenths of a second. Anyway,
I still have those notes, by the way, if you're curious.
No, but my point is served by the fact that we can both hit an A zone on a relatively quick draw.
Yeah, from the draw at 25 yards.
At 25 yards.
A zone.
That's not a ding the steal at 25 and smile for the Instagrams. Like, we hit A zones.
It is if the steel's 6.5 inches wide by 11 inches long, then yeah.
Right. Right. Now, if you're shooting a full-size IPSC and you ding the lower left corner, it still makes a ding sound.
It does.
Right. What did you, if anything, TJ, what did you choose to discard? Was there anything you were shown that you just said, hey, man, that ain't for me?
I can't say, so we'll call it an honorable mention, because I cannot say that I walked away from that class saying, no, I don't need to keep this in mind. But when he was discussing the different mechanisms of preparing for the draw, so he really kind of went over 2 positions, right? So the hands up, surrender position style, right?
High thoracic.
Yep. High thoracic, where your hands are up in like a, hey, I don't want to fight type posture. And then the other one where your hands are down at your waistline and you're masking the preparatory grip that you're taking on the bottom of your garment. I focused more on the latter with the masked, preparatory grip on your garment because of the nature of the clothing that I wear on a daily basis. Right. If I'm, you guys see me on the podcast and I'm usually in a hoodie or a t-shirt or whatever, but if I'm out and about with my family, I try to dress somewhat presentable. So I'll have like a button-up shirt, redneck flannel type stuff. And I have found that by trying to draw from a surrender or neutral position or non-threatening position, we'll call it, that I frequently botch that and get my garment hung up either on my gun or on my other hand. It botches the draw entirely. So I will still practice that because I think there is certainly validity to it. Otherwise, I find it hard to believe that Scott would be teaching it if there wasn't. And he even explained the benefits of both and the cons of both. But that is something that I would say I didn't dismiss it, but it's one of those things that I'm not going to worry too much about practicing. I will still practice it, but I don't consider it like I have to master this skill. So that's the one thing that I would say is throw away, as you so eloquently put it.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, hey, that doesn't actually. So let's open this can of worms. Hey, that doesn't feel right, or hey, that doesn't work for me, better be verifiable on the timer and on the accuracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Scott, in the very beginning, and most good trainers will do this. Hey, look, if you can meet my black belt standards standing on your head and shooting the gun with your pinky, then meet my black belt standards standing on your head and shooting the gun with your pinky. If you can meet the standard, then whatever you're doing clearly works for you.
Yeah, more power to you.
But if your metric is simply, this feels better, therefore it works for me, you're kind of fucked up with like a football bat. Like, that's not a real metric.
Correct.
So a lot of times what you'll see cognitive dissonances in these classes where a guy will come in and go, yeah, my grandpappy taught me to, it's like, bro, does it work? Well, yeah, it works. Does it work on a timer? Uh-oh.
What's a timer?
Yeah, right. What's a timer? Or, holy shit, it just took you 48 minutes to get your gun out, and this dude did a bill drill, went to Subway, got a sandwich, came back, and you were still getting your gun out. Like, maybe you should listen.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that is just my big caveat. So when I say to TJ, is there something that you threw away? TJ's only throwing that something away if he has something else that he knows biometrics works better, not just, oh no, I don't like this for whatever reason. So that's one of those things you have to keep in mind. Let's just for a minute talk about like other logistics for a class like this, right? And this is super stupid, simple, basic shit, but think of all the gear that you and I brought to this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right?
No, I love this topic. I've covered this before on my own channel. I know you've covered it, and we've covered it together. But I'm all about beating that dead horse. You take the bat, I'll take the stick. So first thing, medical.
Yep.
Medical equipment. I had a IFAC from North American Rescue that actually is a gift from Kent from when we first became good buddies. He actually sent that out to a lot of us. You know, we have a small group of friends. He's like, you know what, y'all need to up your medical game. So he took it out of his own pocket and was like, I want to make sure you guys are taken care of. So sent that to us. It's got chest seals, tourniquet, compressed gauze, and some gloves. I think that's about it. It's pretty basic IFAC, but certainly all you would need, in my opinion. Had an extra tourniquet in my bag. I know you had one as well. You also had your ankle medical kit on you, right?
So I keep my Dark Angel Medical coupon code BB15 for 15% off. So I had the Dark Angel Medical ankle med kit with a Catch N7, some chest seals, some gauze, a little roll of nitrile gloves, and a chest decompression needle on my right ankle. I also always have a full Dark Angel dart kit in the outside of the bag.
Yep.
And I have one of those Blade Tech snap-on tourniquet holders that I can throw on my belt if I want to. Scott, actually, this is one of the funnier things he said throughout the course. When he was doing his safety brief and med plan, P.S. if you go to a fucking class and there's not a fucking safety brief or a med plan, time to not be at that class anymore, right?
Yes. Yeah, and not only that, so just to point out and to hammer home the medical part, Scott made sure that we identified or knew about the location of the medical kits that the hosting range had at the back of each room. He identified what the type of container was and how it was marked. He also identified anybody in the class that had EMT training or anything better than, combat lifesaver style experience. And we actually had, before we even set foot on the actual range, while we were still in the classroom portion, we had a clear plan of who the points of contact were going to be in that class and who would take over in the event that there was an injury. So
yeah, we had primary, secondary med, we had primary and secondary comms, and we had the gentleman who was our liaison from the host. Our host had one guy take the class with us to be there for logistics. So we actually had 5 people designated for emergency roles. And the joke that Scott made during this, which is the one I was alluded to, was hilarious. He said, let's try to avoid tourniquet bukkake, where like, dude, which I'm stealing, by the way. Credit where credit is due, of course, but I'm stealing that shit because, the poor sumbitch cuts his arm and like he needs a Band-Aid and he just gets everybody and their brother just starts hurling Dark Angel Medical and NAR products at him, like,
So at first he had a laceration to the upper arm. Then he had a concussion for being beaten to death with all the medical equipment that was just being thrown at him. Yeah. So let's see other equipment that we brought. So marking utensils. So I keep a bundle of marking utensils in my range bag as it is. So I like a blaze orange marker, a black marker, and a silver marker, as well as just a standard ballpoint pen. Good for taking notes, marking up targets. If you pick up an extra mag, like you go out to the pro shop, you pick up extra magazines or equipment, and you want to label that stuff with your name, it's always good to have that stuff on hand. The silver is good when you're marking up a black target. Every other color is good when you're marking up a white target. pretty self-explanatory. Contrasting colors. I did have a tube of a little bottle of the liquid grip stuff.
Yes.
So it's alcohol. It's rubbing alcohol mixed with lifting chalk, right?
And pancake batter.
And pancake batter. Smells delicious. But that really helped out maintain the grip on your hands. You start sweating. You're drawing a gun repeatedly. Aside from assisting, as a quote unquote performance enhancer, it does, in my opinion, help. Anything you can do to maintain positive control of your equipment, i.e., your firearm, is a good thing. So if there's something you can do to prepare for that, such as lifter's chalk, to keep you from fumbling your gun, dropping it on the ground if it's a SIG, and potentially harming somebody by accident, then you should do that.
Yeah. Other stuff like tools. I keep a toolkit. TJ keeps a toolkit. P.S. This was very much like. This wasn't like hi Daisy.
Mm-hmm.
Hi here Daisy.
Yeah, she misses you. She told me as much.
I'm sure. This was not like Big Bear and Little Bear going to a class where I had to like lead TJ along and show him all this stuff. My man, I rolled in and it was so hilariously scary how similar our gear was already. I wasn't like, all right, dude, now make sure you got your underwear for tomorrow. It was like, oh, we have literally the same things.
We could not only could you find a detent spring in the car, and then we have to build an AR out of it now. We could actually build an AR with everything that I brought to the ring. So ratchet kits, Allen keys, Torx bits, extra batteries for RMRs and weapon lights, extra batteries for our electronic ear pro. All that stuff. Anything and everything you need to keep that equipment running is in my range bag.
Spare holsters.
Yep. I, as a matter of fact, even though I ran my tier 1 concealed, I had my floodlight in the bag.
Yep. And some holster grommets, all that shit. And TJ would have brought the manual for his X300, but it has disintegrated since it was written.
It's written on parchment paper, ass.
But no,
just like the Constitution, don't hate.
Point being, don't let some shit breaking or going down on you deadline you out of a class. Now, we were lucky, thankfully, the folks at Royal Range, I mean, shit. We could have ruined an entire gun and walked out there and been like, I need another one, please. And, I'm pretty sure if your credit card would swipe, they'd have rebuilt your shit for you, right? That being said, not all these classes are conducted in such a world-class facility like Royal Range with a effing pro shop 28 steps down the hallway, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's how, honestly, that's how I built my range bag. If I go out to a range, and all of the ranges I shoot at, other than, going up to Royal Range and hitting up my buddies on Target over in Murfreesboro, those facilities have a pro shop of sorts, or a retail space where I could get repairs done if necessary. But you need to configure your loadout as if you're not going to have any other support.
Yeah.
So if you go to a 3-gun match or a USPSA match, you better have extra, for your rifle, have an extra bolt carrier group, have an extra firing pin, have extra cotter pins, all those little things that could make a gun fall apart. Get a replacement. You're talking about a few dollars over essentially throwing away a few hundred because you can't complete the class because your gun's out of commission.
Absolutely. And even spare guns entirely are not a terrible idea. But
as a matter of fact, I did that too. I had the Ginger Special in the bag as well.
Yep. This is what's nice. What's really great about doing a buddy class like this is that we didn't have to lug all of our same stuff. Like, we could consolidate a little bit. So, like, we had extra holsters, extra guns, the chances of lightning striking twice in both of our guns, deadlining in the same class, it's a pretty low frequency.
I don't know. It is us, bud.
Well, but Yeah, so it was a great experience. I'm just gonna recap and end tonight by saying this, man. You done us proud. You really did an awesome job. I was honored and proud to bring you out and to have you you represent us well. You did a great job.
So real quick, while we're singing my praises, since we do have the spreadsheet of destiny, right, with all the training standards.
Oh, are you gonna brag about your times?
I'm gonna maybe humble brag. We'll humble brag.
Yeah, no. Is that what you're gonna do right now?
Hey, the viewers, the people want to know these things, man.
The viewer wants to know.
The viewer, yeah, the dozens of fans that we have. So real quick for the black belt standard. So real quick, Scott did offer the opportunity for anybody in the class to attempt the black belt standards both days. At the end of each day, everybody had an opportunity. What was I thought really cool, just as a sign of solidarity and is for the whole, just as a testament to the group of people we had taking this class with us, everybody went through the standard at the end of the last day. There was nobody that was like, man, I'm not. I appreciate it. I'm still not. Everyone was like, no, come on, man, let's do this. And we all burned it down together. So that was cool. So for the 3 and 2 drill, so again, 3-2 center mass or 3 to the A zone, 2 to a 3x5 card in the head box. My time was 2:20. For one shot from the draw at 7 yards to the A zone, I set a new personal record of 0.93 seconds. Next task was the bill drill. So from the 7-yard line, 6 rounds to the A zone, I did that in 2.63 seconds. And lastly, the single shot from a draw at 25 yards, I did in 1.66. So, yay, I'm special. I got a sticker. But no, so for real, I did, and those of us that did attend the class, we did get to walk away with, while maybe not a black belt patch, but certainly Scott's coveted Modern Samurai Project patch. It is prominently displayed in the center of my patch wall.
Yeah, man. Let's see what else to discuss. Do you have any parting wisdom or parting shots that you want to if there's somebody who's kind of sort of iffy, might do this, might not do it, you got 30 seconds to tell them why they should, kind of thing?
Oh, I can sum it up quite simply. If you don't take any other training and you want to get better, then you need to pay serious attention to Scott Jedlinski with the Modern Samurai Project. I would, all joking aside, I understand that money can be tight. I understand that, paying that sum of money might be out of the realm of the possible for many people. My argument would be if it takes you a year to save up for it, it will be worth every bit of that time that you took to save up for. And you will come away a better shooter. There was not a single shooter in that class that did not come away better. So his tagline or his catchphrase of get better is 100% accurate.
TJ's son woke up in a bathtub full of ice, missing a kidney, just so TJ could afford to take this class.
He's got 2. He's got another one. He'll be fine.
Right. No, it's fine. But yeah, man, I mean, guys, I guess all I would say is this, right? You can go a lot of places and spend a lot of money trying to get better with a gun in your hand. If this is not in your top 5, I'm missing something. And maybe I am missing something. Maybe there's something out there. And we talked at the end of the class debrief about other quality instructors. Jedi's super humble. Everybody, most of the good dudes in this industry are super humble, right? And girls. Everybody's always saying, "Oh, you should take this class, or you should take that class, or these guys are great, or these guys are awesome." But this for me on a human performance factor has probably been the one learning experience, or the one set of learning experiences in my case, that has had the most positive impact on me as a shooter. I can't say anything better than that. And I mean, God knows Scott had a lot to work with, because I was the worst shooter on the face of the human planet before he got. Now, I mean, clearly I wasn't that bad, but I mean, damn, dude, he brought me into the world of AIWB. He brought me into the world of what is really a way quicker draw. I mean, my 137 versus my effing 2.25 from back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a real change. That's noticeable, real improvement. And you're a more proficient shooter at that level. And I was proud in this environment and in this endeavor that he got to train a better version of me than he trained last time.
Absolutely, man.
Right. I mean, and that'll always continue. Like I've dropped a shitload of weight since the last time he and I trained together in person. And
and this is just a testament to the kind of guy that Jedi is. So, training aside, you could go to any instructor and they probably won't remember your name. They probably won't give two shits about you. Watching Jedi interact with Kent throughout this class, Jedi was, I would even say, more proud of the improvements and the milestones that Kent has achieved in his goals to lose weight, get in better shape, take more care of himself than Kent was.
Yep.
He actually gives a shit. And
absolutely agree.
He's an outstanding guy. And aside from him making me a better shooter, I consider myself privileged to have while I'd like to consider him a friend, certainly an acquaintance in my life as positive as Jedi is. He's just a fantastic individual, and he's just a great dude all around. So, yeah, God bless him, man. It's that simple.
Quality attracts quality too. Like I've yet to meet anybody who's been associated with MSP or with Scott or with Bev. By the way, she's an awesome part of that organization. Yep. I've yet to interact with anybody in the alumni group. I've yet to talk to anybody who's trained with them. Like quality deserves quality. I've yet to have anybody be like, oh man, that guy's a dick. Like, man, I don't want to be around that guy anymore. I'm sure Scott gets some real winners at class somewhere, or maybe they're just afraid to come out and put it on the clock in front of everybody. I don't know, but I've yet to experience anybody at one of his classes or who has taken one of his classes where I'm like, man, I don't know about that guy or that girl. I've been genuinely pleased with everybody else I've met through association or anything like that. Or, it doesn't surprise me at all who I find out has trained with him and stuff like that. It's a very welcome thing. So, dude, again, awesome job, man. You burn it down. I'm so glad you trained. I'm glad you got the bug, and we know he's got the bug because he's going to do at least one more class this year. He's coming up for shotgun class.
Yep.
With 360 Performance coming up here in May. Just for the promos and the plugs, I am hosting MSP up here in Lewisberry, PA, coming up on Mother's Day weekend. That class is entirely sold out last I looked, but Bev does have a waiting list. So if you're here local and you're not in that class for whatever reason, get on the waiting list. Let's not wish anybody ill or whatever. I hope everybody that signed up can show up, but just in case they can't, get in on that wait list. On Scott's recommendation, we're also bringing in Tim Herron. So you guys will have an opportunity to train with him up here in July. And we've got a lot of good things coming up. So stay tuned for more of this kind of content with Sling'N Led Podcast. We're really proud to be able to have access to folks like this and training like this. And if you're on the fence, man, get out there. Just get out there and go for it. And you'll be a better shooter for it. Let's see here. Sling'N Led Podcast is brought to you by, let's see, Riton Optics. Riton Optics, Pro Staff, TJ and myself No more discount codes. They would prefer that you guys go through one of their vendors like Optics Planet or anywhere else fine optics are served. But check out their new line that has just been released.
Yep.
I'm working on the Tactics Pistol Red Dot, which has Gen 1 has yet to fail on my 10 millimeter gun, which is cool. So rightonoptics.com for that. Dark Angel Medical code BB15 will get you 15% off products on www.darkangelmedical.com. Get your tourniquets, etc. Let's see. Head down Firearms. Check out the Craftsman Series rifles. TJ's repping for those dudes and on target shooting sports as well. Down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where I'm now scared to go. So no wonder those dudes built some rifles. That place is I'm afraid of Murfreesboro. But check out Head Down Firearms. Oh, geez, who the heck else? The Gunpoint. Check out TJ's articles. Little Easter egg or spoiler. I'm working on some article content myself here that might be there at some point. So check that out. Check out our Subscribe Star. There's a link to that in the description below. It's like Patreon, but for gun people. So go check out our Subscribe Star. If you value what we do and you want to throw us a couple bucks, please do so there. Teespring, we've got merch. Check out the awesome t-shirts. P.S. If you think TJ and I didn't hang out for a couple days together and come up with like 90 funny t-shirt ideas, you're crazy.
I just got to get off my ass and start designing them, man.
Dude, do those.
I know. A bad ginger. I'm sorry.
Just beep boop that shit, would you?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
YouTube.com. You can find the Sling'N Lead podcast, TJ's personal channel, Lead Slinging Ginger, and my personal channel, Green Mountain Defense. And as always, please, if you're at all inclined to train with me or learn from me, www.greenmountaindefense.com/training. I could be had for private lessons, kids' birthday parties, clown events, or open enrollment firearms classes. So looking forward to our inaugural open enrollment event coming up this weekend at Tupelo Hawk and Rifle and Pistol Club up in Pine Grove, Pennsylvania. So, yeah, we're going to be out in the middle of the woods teaching some dudes to shoot. It's going to be a good time.
Yep. So,
you got anything to wrap up?
I actually do. So, as many of you might know, we were impacted pretty heavily and catastrophically by a tornado that touched down just outside of Nashville late last night, early this morning. Last I checked before jumping onto this podcast, the fatality count is up to 23. Certainly a devastating event. It tore through 5 counties, I want to say, and was on the ground for an hour.
Wow.
For those that are inclined to donate or participate, we are benefiting not one iota from this, but Hands On Nashville, HON.org, is working very closely with the Office of Emergency Management to take up volunteers and donations to help with the recovery efforts. So if you feel so inclined to contribute to that charity or to that organization, the link will be down in the description below. But HON.org, quite simple. There is a volunteer or donation button right there on their main page. So please head over, check that out, and show the Music City some love, if you will.
TJ, just for our listeners, everybody in your immediate life is okay. At least last I knew.
Yes.
All family, all coworkers, everybody like that. Nobody that you have direct hands-on contact with was affected. So that's
that is correct. But just to kind of give you guys an example of the breadth of the devastation, while Kent's right, nobody in my immediate family or circle of friends was impacted, or my coworkers. You know, I've got a lot of my colleagues and coworkers that are up in the Nashville area. None of them were impacted, thank God. However, we do have family friends. So 1 degree of separation here from these individuals. They have family members that have not been accounted for.
Damn, dude.
So
Well,
it's pretty devastating, and the damage is horrific. They're starting the evidence, the on ground video footage and photographic evidence is starting to pour in on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, and it's pretty crazy. So be mindful of this, guys. If anything, it just reiterates a lot of the messages that Kent and I have been pushing on this channel. Have a plan. Just like you would have a fire drill, for your household, have a hurricane plan, have a tornado plan. Who would have thought a tornado would touch down in the middle of Tennessee, right? Tornadoes in and of themselves typically avoid urban areas because of the temperature changes, the higher pressure that comes up from a heavily concreted area, right? So the concrete jungle, right? That's why you'll hardly ever, if ever, see one touchdown in places like Dallas. Just all the concrete changes the atmosphere.
I tell you what, come for the gun knowledge and learn some meteorology. No shit.
Yeah.
The depth of knowledge of like Jeopardy trivia knowledge that you possess never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, I'm kind of useless like that sometimes. But
I did not know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you ever run into, and I only know this because I've been to Texas a few times, and I have friends that live in Dallas. And Dallas, because it's such a built-up urban environment, has a completely different weather forecast than everywhere immediately surrounding the city border. It's pretty crazy, but very similar to Nashville, right? So never would have expected one to touch down in Nashville, not let alone stay on the ground for as long as it did. So have that plan, take those preparations, educate yourselves on what could happen, what can happen, and plan accordingly, and help increase the survival rate of you and your loved ones. Because you never know when disaster may strike, be it man-made or natural. So, but with that, again, Kent, always a pleasure hosting this show with you. I'm glad I got to put on the interviewee hat tonight and let you grill me on this. So we did not rehearse this at all. I had no idea the questions or content that Kent was going to bring up to me. So he could have completely stumped me on this one. So thank you for being gentle. Yeah,
that's also what he said Saturday night after class.
Oh God, you went there. Can we just have one class or one podcast that's at least PG? No, so all seriousness, folks, we could make, and there's certainly an argument to be made. You look at some of these freaks of nature in the shooting community that seem to have a natural born ability to be great with a trigger. If you look at the amount of ammo and time that they spent getting to the level that they did, there is a very low probability that guys like us could actually accomplish that. So get out, get training, and go get better. And for the love of God, go check out Jedi's classes. He's just a fantastic guy, a fantastic instructor, and like I can't state it enough. I feel privileged having to have gotten a chance to experience that. And of course, we enjoyed having you down to visit, buddy. So looking forward to May. Looking forward to getting our shotgun on. And yeah, I mean, after all, I do have a daughter to protect, right? So
yeah, dude, you need a shotgun for that. So, ModernSamuraiProject.com, by the way.
Yep, that is his website.
At Modern Samurai Project on the grams, and Modern Samurai Project on Facebook
and YouTube.
So and check out his podcast on Apple and all those fine places. Check out the MSP podcast. He's got like 35 or 36 pretty awesome episodes himself. So please go hit that up as well.
But yeah, man. So that's about it. So until we see each other again, God bless you all. Take care of each other and get out and shoot.